Hey, welcome back. So this is the second ride of the season. I'm riding at Bryce Bike Park, 2026 season starting out. I wanted to start back out at Bryce and pick up where I left off. For those of you who were here last year, I started out mountain biking in late 2024. At the end of the season, I'd rented a trail bike and realized that, hey, downhill mountain biking is something that I would like to push further into. Um, Bought a bike later on in the season and was getting ready and waiting for the 2025 season to happen. Rode around for about a month of the 2025 season, and then riding stopped for me after that. Unfortunately, some things happened that were out of my control, and that's just how life is sometimes. And I wasn't able to ride. And if I'm being honest, I didn't think I would ever be able to ride a mountain bike again. So to be back on the bike, even with injuries I sustained, even though there was nothing I could do, it was completely out of my control what happened, and I'll get into that another day. But to be back out on the bike is huge, and the only thing that I can do is just to try to get through these injuries, is to try to strengthen my body, get my mind back in shape, and just kind of pick back up where I left off, which was trying to get better at jumps. Jumps are the thing that I would like to feel comfortable on, just because I think it would allow me to go to the next stage of my riding, which is bigger jumps and faster riding, and kind of just looking for more challenging terrain. And I don't want to go any further before there's certain techniques that I feel I should master, which are scrubs, and maybe work my way up to whips, but especially scrubs, just because of my riding technique. I like to carry a lot of speed into things, and I like to just be able to do a kind of scrub my speed off of the top before a takeoff or something like that, just to get back to the ground as quickly as possible. Because if you've noticed, I don't like to go high, but I do not mind going far as long as I'm low. So that's just kind of my riding preference. But anyway, I'm just going to kind of do a little bit of narration in and out on these videos. There's certain things that I was trying to focus on improving this ride, and there's also some changes that I've made to the bike this year. Some are noticeable. The most noticeable thing is the bars. Last year I was running the high-rise 80 mil rise bars, which I ran because it provided a lot more comfort for my back, just given my height. So it gave me a lot more comfort in the cockpit, and just kind of allowed me to sit a little bit more upright and took that stress off my lower back. Now, of course, the downside to increasing the height of the bars, or going with those high-rise bars, is that you're taking more weight off of the front end. So naturally, that would equate to less feel in the front, or less traction, because you have less weight on the front. So I knew this, and I was fine with it because it really helped me set up for jumps better, and that's what I was focusing on. Cornering is something that I'm relatively comfortable with, and I know that I can improve in all aspects of riding, but I wanted to focus on jumps and feeling comfortable on the jumps. And so that's what I ran that setup for. And there were some people that had mentioned, or people get comments and say, wow, that's crazy, why are you running bars that high? It's all about what you want to run on your bike and what's comfortable. I mean, you can look at professional downhill racers. They all run different setups, and enduro racers. There's no one setup that is perfect for everyone, so that's just the setup that I found was comfortable for the type of riding that I was doing. So now I went back to the standardized bars that came on the bike. This is a Polygon N9, and I think it was 40 mil standard kind of flat bars that came on the bike, which I went back to, and I kind of made some adjustments to my levers and bar angle and things like that. And so I feel I have it set up pretty well right now. And, certain changes like that, in addition to kind of me adjusting my body position, are some of the things that are allowing me to be a little bit more comfortable and push into things a little bit more. So speaking of body position, the reason I bring that up is because I was looking at it from last weekend, and I realized that I looked really stiff and really hesitant coming into things. And after doing some thinking, I realized that, the reason why I'm slowing down, or I'm braking early, or I'm kind of dragging my brakes in certain sections, was because of my body position, and more importantly, my knee position. After doing some thinking and kind of evaluating, my setup and my gear, I realized that the knee braces that I am wearing are actually hindering the way that I move. Now, somebody might hear that and say, well, like, obviously it's a knee brace, so it's going to hinder your movement. But, you know, I hadn't really been paying attention to how much I had changed my riding style to accommodate for the knee braces. I'll get into the gear that I wear and the gear that I try out, because I'm always trying out different gear. Underneath it just looks like, you know, I'm wearing the same thing on the exterior, but it's different gear that I try out. And I've tried out a lot of different knee pads and have a bunch of different knee braces and things like that. But I'm realizing that those things are really hindering my ability to kind of squat and pivot, and even, you know, depending on the brace, impact my hip pivot and movement also. And so this next weekend coming up, I'm going to actually run a softer knee pad, more flexible, and see if that gives me that movement back, you know, to kind of allow me to squat in corners and put, you know, my outside foot down and things like that. Those are the ways that when I started out downhill mountain biking, I was doing, and I realized that I'm not doing that anymore. Instead, I'm standing up really stiff, and I'm not really pivoting as well, and I just don't have as much traction in the front or the rear. And I just realized that, you know, I'm just riding stiff. And actually, in the last video, or the second to last video, in this video, it's confusing, but the second to last clip in this video is actually when I get the most comfortable on the bike, and it dawned on me that, hey, you need to squat down, you need to try to bend your knees a little bit more, even though they're limited. And once I did that, it made a world of a difference. You know, I wasn't overthinking it, and everything just felt natural. So it's interesting how those things that you don't think about sometimes just start impacting you without you realizing it. So that's something that I realized, and I caught it, and now I'm working back on improving that. But in addition to that, you know, I'm all for wearing safety gear and everything, but, you know, you do have to factor in that sometimes it takes more energy, and that in this case, that's what I'm realizing is the second thing that these knee pads and knee braces are also doing, is they're taking a lot of energy. Now, I would never ride without any type of knee pads or elbow pads or anything like that, but in this case, I don't need to wear the knee braces that I am wearing in this video, which are the Liat X-Frame Carbons, which are more of a dirt bike or motocross or skiing knee brace. But I put them on because it was really helping take some of that strain off of my bones and muscles that you know, I really need to heal. So, you know, I know that those, again, life altering injuries that will be with me forever, but I'm trying to just reduce the strain as much as possible. But it's just really hard to ride comfortably and consistently with the knee braces on, at least for the amount of pedaling that I'm doing. Now, if I was at a steeper part where I didn't have to pedal much, then it wouldn't be a problem, but it really does zap the energy. And I actually did the calculations on the knee braces in combination with another thing, which are the tire pressures, the really low tire pressures that I'm running. I'm running about maybe 16 psi in the front and maybe 19 psi in the rear, which is pretty low for the terrain here. This park is pretty flat and requires a lot of pedaling, so you know, some people may run 25 and up, and I've ran into some people that say they run 35 to 40 psi, which is a little too high for me. But when you factor in those things, plus kind of the friction, the extra friction within the pants, the rolling resistance on the ground, because you have less air in the tire and more surface area is of the tire spreading on the ground, creating more friction. You just have all of this drag and all of this energy loss. And when I did the calculations, I'm actually, if I were to increase my tire pressure and switch to the knee pads that I will be running next weekend, I would gain back about 30% of the energy or kind of power consumption, just because the extra torque and pedaling and oxygen needed. I'm looking at like about a 30% energy recovery by doing that throughout the course of the day, which is huge. That's a huge amount of energy recovered. That should allow me to not feel so winded, because every time I'm out, I'm like, why am I so winded, you know, and I do realize that I pedal the entire time just because I like to maintain my speed the whole time. So I pedal almost the
Alright, this
entire
should
run
be
or wherever
our
I can.
last run of the day.
But things like that are things that
Let's see if we
I
can
wasn't
get a
really
gap in the wind.
calculating. And now that I have, I realize that these are things that I can change that can improve my riding. And, you know, outside of the energy recovery that I'll get back, that'll also allow me to move around more freely on the bike. So those are the things that I'm hoping will really make a difference. There's one other thing that I'll be changing, which is which was I was kind of struggling to see up the trail and kind of maintain my focus. And then I realized that it wasn't my helmet or my goggles. It was actually my neck brace, because I do wear a neck brace. My neck brace was not allowing me to go back far enough, just because I needed to slip my neck brace on top of my chest protector, which would give me maybe about an inch or two on the rear for me to tilt my head up, which is also huge because then that allows me to have more visibility. And so fixing those things made my last few runs of the day way more comfortable. It made riding on hooch and pickleback, and especially this last run on pickleback, it just made everything just feel really comfortable. I felt super comfortable, and I felt like everything was dialed in. And so I'm hoping to pick up on that this upcoming weekend and make those adjustments with the knee pads and to get that, you know, about 30% energy recovery, and just see and go from there. So again, I'm just happy to be back on a bike. I go out to improve and to get better, with the ultimate goal of being able to hit the biggest things I can and ride down some of the steepest stuff I can and just explore. That's just this type of riding that's interesting to me. So if you're interested in that journey, and or maybe you too are trying to get back on the bike, you know, maybe let this be the motivation that you need to do it, because if I could do it after coming back from injuries where I honestly didn't think I would ever be able to ride a bicycle again, you know, hey, a recovery can be made quickly, and I'm hoping that you're able to get out there soon and ride. So anyway, I'm just glad to be back on two wheels, and I'll see you all when I see you. Take it easy.
That's it for the day.